What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Bubba Speed career mode in MotoGP19. And Bubba's top of the lead right now, or at least he's tied for first with 151 points, 3 points above Aaron Canet, or as I like to call him, Aaron Canet, dude. And we're going into the part of the calendar where Bubba's going to have a severe disadvantage. All right, Brno isn't one of my worst tracks, but it's far from being my best. And then after that, I think we have Poland, then I think Silverstone, and then I think San Marino. So, yeah, we have a couple of bad tracks right now. Brno is far from being one of my best, like I said. So, it's going to be rough. In qualifying, however, 2 minutes, 17 seconds isn't terrible. And, of course, Bubba is on pole. So, almost a full second faster than second place. So, it's a good place to be. However, Brno has a very, very long straightaway. So, just from that, you know that you're in deep shit when you're on a shit bike like this. So, unfortunately, as always, we get passed by half the fucking grid, and Bubba Speed is down to 13. So, a pretty bad start, but unfortunately, that's just kind of what we have to expect. You already know what's going to happen. Like I said, I still don't know if there's some kind of special way to get a great start. I've been practicing on a lot of things, trying to get something going, but it just never really seems to make much of a difference. Regardless, Bubba is already back up to third place. Got to get all over Mazia and Antonelli, because at this point of the season, it's pretty much essential to get at least a podium every time. If you can get a podium, then there's a good chance you're going to be up above Antonelli and Canet, and that's pretty much the goal at this point. It's not necessarily to win every race, even though that's always what you're aiming for. It's pretty much just make sure you're above those guys. Once we get to the last 3 or 4 races, then we're fine. Once you get to Motegi, Singapore, Valencia in particular is one that Bubba's really good at, and I'm really good at. So those are all tracks that will favor us. We have to make sure that we're as close as possible come the last few races. And Brno is going to be an important one because, like I said, it's not one that I'm great at, but it's not one that I'm terrible at either. So if Bubba can get a decent result here, that'll go a long way in keeping him in the race for the title. Lap 1, of course, the important thing is to not lose too much ground at the start. Bubba's done a good job of staying among the top 3, and as long as he can not go doing stuff like that, then he should be able to stay in it. The good thing about Brno, and I will say this, is that it is a rather wide track. So it's not like if you run wide, you have no space to recover. You do have plenty of room. The only issue is, like I said, it's a very, very point-and-shoot track. So a bike like ours isn't really going to work at its best in a place like this, where this bike is more set up for, say, Sachsenring, Jerez, tracks like that. We can still win on tracks like Mugello that are kind of like Brno, as in a lot of top speed is ideal, but because Mugello is still, I feel like, a lot more technical. Now, that's coming from a guy who doesn't race, never has ridden a motorcycle, so I can't really speak too much about technique or stuff like that, but I would say that Brno is definitely, at least in my opinion, based on what I can see with my own 2 eyes, been watching racing pretty much my whole life because my dad was a racer, so I feel like Brno is definitely a lot more point and shoot as opposed to Mugello. But yeah, Brno, like, this is the part right here where if we can keep up with them around here, then we should be able to at least be competitive towards the end of the race. You know, the only problem is, like I said, this is the part of the track where top speed is pretty much the only thing, because it's literally straightaway turn, straightaway. Like, I'm not talking about a short one, I'm talking about a long one. Like, there are a lot of tracks that don't have as long straightaways on the entire track as this thing does, pretty much after every single turn. So that's unfortunate. But around here, right here in particular, this is where we can gain a lot of ground. This turn right here, unfortunately, cut it a little bit too short, so had to run a little bit wrong, and we just lost a lot of time there. But if you can get that one right, then that's where you're going to gain a lot of ground on the competition. This also isn't a bad one right here, because they do slow down quite a bit for this little chicane. Bubba right there does a decent job at it. If he can get a good drive, then he's going to gain a little bit of ground. It's just that at this point they are kind of far away, and with there only basically being like a lap and 3/4, no, sorry, a lap and not even a half, like it's less than a lap and a half left. There's still a little bit left, but it's just probably not going to be enough. I mean, the important thing at this point, because they're so far ahead, is to not lose any ground, as in not lose any positions. That will be the biggest thing. Unless Bubba can get I don't know, a second faster out of nowhere, then is probably not likely for him to really do too much. Now, this part of the track, despite me not being good at it, I do actually really like. And especially when you get to the MotoGP bikes, that's where I feel like this track is probably at its best. Because on Moto3, yeah, I don't think you can really take advantage of the straightaways and the speed of it as much as you would. Sorry, on a Moto3 you can't really take advantage of it, and it's not really as fun. I feel like with bikes like this, the most fun tracks are the Saxon rings and stuff like that. The short ones where, like I said, it's all about corner speed and stuff like that. Whereas on a MotoGP bike, the longer ones are more fun because you can really get the best out of the power of those bikes. All right, last lap. We are about to get past. Yep, there he goes. About to get past. However, we are able to stay ahead of Canet. And at this point, that would probably be fundamental. Like, we're not going to get past Antonelli unless he crashes. And I don't really think people crash in this game unless you crash him out. The important thing at this point is hoping that Mazia can stay ahead of Antonelli and try to keep him from getting an extra 5 points. Even though right now they look like they're actually having a battle. There you go. Looks like Antonelli just passed him too. And the important thing is, of course, staying up front of Canet, who is right behind us. Okay, Antonelli didn't get past him. It looked like it. He wasn't able to. Ran wide a little bit. That doesn't really matter here. Much better drive than the last one. And we come into the Stadion turn looking pretty good. Unfortunately, ran wide, but that doesn't really matter because you can get a good drive coming out of it, but our tire is fucked. I might have to start using hard tires on the rear because, you know, it's just not... sorry, on the front too, because it's not really working out too good right now. The rear in particular, of course, is getting eaten up. That's just normal. We're almost a second behind Antonelli, so we're probably not going to get past them. But we are, I would say, a solid, I don't know, a few tenths at least in front of Canet, who's in fourth. I wish I would say. But we're running really wide here. There's a chance that they could be diving under and getting a better drive out of that corner. But luckily, able to maintain the position. As long as we don't blow it, then we have a good chance of finishing third. Only issue is the straightaway at the end is very long. So they could get us. If we get a bad drive, then Bubba could find himself fourth. But half a second should be enough. It's almost 6/10 of a second. That should be enough unless Bubba makes a mistake. Comes out of this turn really poorly. Really poorly. And runs wide out of this one. Wasn't able to keep on the gas, which is what you want to be doing. Ooh, it's going to be close. It's going to be really close. Alright, Bubba got third. They were starting to gain. Luckily, they didn't quite have enough time. And Bubba does get that third place, which is definitely very important. Finished a second and a half back. So that does kind of show you that the second and third sectors of the track is where we lose the most ground. So hopefully next season that won't be the case. But as of right now, we're 4 points behind Antonelli, which isn't too bad. If he'd have won this race, it would have been terrible for us. And now we move on to Poland, Spieleberg in Poland. Yeah, Austria. I can honestly say to you guys that I despise almost every single new track they added to the calendar. And I've already said that about Aragon, even though we haven't gone there yet. I hate all these tracks. Of course, we qualify on pole. That's not the difficult part. Qualifying isn't the hard part anywhere, except for, say, tracks I really hate like Aragon or Silverstone. But because this track is definitely easy to cheese. Like, you can run wide on this part, and as long as you don't crash like hitting the bump, then you're gonna get a good drive and you will gain a lot of ground. But I don't know. I just feel like all these new tracks that they've added to the calendar, they're just I don't know. They just feel like there's really nothing to them, and that might just be because, for the most part, all these tracks have been raced on in MotoGP for, you know, decades, essentially. So there's so much history to them. Know them so well. You see them constantly. Whereas these, they're new tracks, and I don't know. I just feel like there's really no heart to it. It's hard to explain. There's just really nothing to it. Like, they're not fun to race on. They're very point and shoot. And this turn right here is, I would say, arguably my least favorite on the entire calendar. I've never once been able to do it the right way, essentially. I always lose a lot of ground there. And thankfully, this part right here really does save my ass and Bubba's ass a lot of times. I mean, just look at the ground that Bubba's able to gain right here. Alright, you're going to run it wide, but that's perfectly fine. That's what we want to do. Because then we want to cut it in here try to get past a few of these guys, and then potentially get ourselves up to the top 5 by the end of the lap, because they're going to hit the brakes here. Bubba doesn't really hit the brakes, just kind of lets off, taps it a little bit, runs wide here. I know that's kind of cheese, but I've told you guys a million times, I'm not interested in tracks like this and doing it perfectly, because if I do it perfectly, then you're not going to enjoy it, because there's not going to be any kind of competition. I'm not going to do well in any of these, because I had to put in hours upon hours actually learning the tracks the right way, and I just don't have that kind of time, to be honest with you. So we will be learning as we go, but for now, enjoy the cheese. Or don't enjoy the cheese. I understand if you don't. I know it's trash. Trying to crash out Antonelli, I'm not going to lie. Starting to get a little bit desperate here. Trying to at least slow him down a little bit, but it backfires and allows whoever that is to get right back in the mix. This one definitely cut it, did it very, very wrong. Able to save it, though, and keep ourselves on the track. Antonelli looks like he also lost a couple of positions, and we lost a lot more than a couple. We lost a solid 5 positions, or 6, depending on when you start counting. So, definitely not where we want to be, but luckily, this turn, like I said, is the only part of the track where I have just insane difficulty. I mean, just look at this. I can never get it right, and even when I do it decently, I still feel like I'm losing so much ground, and it's just so frustrating. When you come into this left hand, where I like to run it wide and then cut it in, because they don't do it that way, and I feel like that's probably the best way to actually gain ground. Because see, you can get a little bit more of a drive there, and you can already be going wide, and then you can cut around them here, and then you can just kind of smash the throttle. Like I didn't really do it right that time, but you saw it earlier. Like it's very, very efficient once you do it. It's very, very effective. All right, really fucking up right now. The biggest issue for me remains the fact that in qualifying, pretty much always on my own, so I don't have to worry about other people banging into me and stuff like that when I use my weird lines. But in this, when you're actually racing, of course, it's not the same thing. It's a lot more difficult, and people don't actually like change where they go based on you unless they're trying to pass you. So they don't they don't avoid you or stuff like that. They just kind of stay on their track. They just stay on their line. And they don't really adapt to whatever's going on. That's the problem with the AI, I think, in this game. Is that, like, at least I think it was in MotoGP 4 or something like that, there was actually battles. The AI would actually pass each other and stuff like that. And this, unless you really, like, influence that by banging into people or stuff like that, then it's a lot like a Formula 1 race. Pretty much no passing. And that's definitely not the way that Moto 3 is in real life. In this, they're pretty much all grouped up like in real life, but they don't actually pass. So that's I would say the biggest issue with the AI. Now, if we can stay pretty close to the top, oh, we blew it, fucked up. Bubba Speed ran wide. That could be game. That could be game. Was looking good for a win. Third, going into the part of the track where Bubba is very dominant, that pretty much would have been a guaranteed W. But running wide like that is pretty much a guaranteed L at this point, I would say. So definitely not ideal, but there's still time. There is still time. The important thing is finishing in front of Canet and Antonelli, but that just completely ruined everything. Momentum is completely gone. Choked once again after Sachsenring. That was not what we wanted to see, but it is what happened. It is what we get, and it's unfortunate, but that is what it is. Ran wide, but you can still salvage a few positions here. Runs really, really, really wide. Gonna hit the grass. Gonna slow us down. We're up in front of Antonelli. Can we get third? Can Bubba steal third? Not able to. Not able to steal third, but stole 4th position. I know, guys. I know. That's bullshit. It's cheating. I understand that, but alright, whatever. Got the Employee of the Month achievement, so got the team race objective 20 times in our career, which of course isn't just Bubba. But yeah. I was going to do the Red Bull Rookie Cup too, guys, but I really, really hated it. Didn't enjoy it, so I figured I'd skip to this. Maybe some other time we'll do the Red Bull Rookie Cup just to kind of see how it is. Just for you guys. So right now, unfortunately, we're back down to 3rd. Having a hard time keeping up with the front runners, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, which is the best way to support me and any other small channel you may follow. And let me know in the comments what you think of Bubba. Is he too dirty, or is it perfectly fine on a track like Spieleberg? Thanks you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.